Session on four working philosophies and their pros and cons as described in Keegan 2016. Myself, Drashti Patel. I have Vedika, Parthivi, and Keval with me.
So before we start, I'd like to quickly introduce the topic and explain what is working philosophy. So working philosophy basically encompasses key assumptions and beliefs of a practitioner, what he believes in, how he believes he can deliver his practice. So if you want to know the working philosophy of a practitioner, you should ask him three questions. The first one is what are his aims regarding the practice? The second one is his science or subject matter that he believes in, which can be client-led or a practitioner-led. The third question that we should ask him is what is his practice style and intervention methods.
Also, there are some ethics defined by BPS, British Psychological Society, and HCPC to maintain ethical standards during our practice. These ethical standards include things such as maintaining confidentiality of the client, respecting the dignity of client, and maintaining integrity being a few. Over to you, Vedika.
Firstly, explaining about certaintism, it is regarded under hard science as it is based on the proven theories. It is believed that the theories are used to make predictions, and these predictions are made to confirm that that this theory for future observations. And if the predictions are correct, then the theory can gain credibility or certainty. And then progress, the practitioner may use the theories in the practice. The main advantage of certaintism is that the confirmatory approach allows many competing theories to simultaneously exist, so that the practitioner can use it on the practice or on the field. It is ideally backed by evidence, so which in return all gain more credibility. And it is often labeled as practitioner led because the practitioner has more role. But however, it is also a disadvantage because there is no room or a very little for the views and opinions of the athlete. um, as it is backed by evidence and many theories, it is often it often tells that the paternalistic approach are also used, like cognitive behavioral theory, by the practitioner. And so it is more on the side of the evidence backed and less on the client based.
Yeah,
So
so
what are your views?
think about certaintism. If you are like a practitioner, would you like to follow that philosophy or not?
Yeah, I think that to a certain point, certaintism can be used because it is usually backed by evidence. So we can, if we can prove it, so we can show the stats to the client, so they can understand it very well. So if they want, we cannot persuade them, but if they can want, then they can use it.
Yeah, I agree with her. Actually, it gives assuredness and certainty towards the result.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think one disadvantage could also be that it's hard to produce replicable results every time, and that is what certinism is entrenched in to produce observable, measurable results, which can be a problem in actual practice because it's not always possible to have replicable results.
We cannot
Uh,
generalize to all the athletes. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to agree with Parthivi because as read from Keegan 2016 itself that it can't accommodate catastrophic conditions. That is, it ignores those outliers which haven't been proven about up till now. So shall we move to the second philosophy that is there? It's
Yeah.
construalism.
On the contradictory to certaintism, constructionism is a soft science. Um, this philosophy believes that we cannot measure something as unique as someone's psychology. Therefore, it firmly rejects two notions that are psychology can be measured in a reliable and a valid way, and some observation can be used to generate theories that are applicable to all the athletes. This is basically a client led approach, and a practitioner of this working philosophy will indulge in thoroughly understanding their client's experience and build a theory unique to their client needs. One of the advantages of this way of practice is that it helps create a working alliance with the client. and enables him to reconstruct a healthy, positive, and progressive outlook to the world going forward. However, downside of this is that it is very lengthy process, and practitioners working in high demand sports rarely have such a long time to sit and understand the athlete's unique experiences. This was given by Keegan in 2016. There's also a different study given by Light and Valian in 2008 on swimmers. Um, he says that swimmers who have conceptual understanding of the dynamics of swimming and who are disposed towards independent problem solving, whether in regards to tactics or technique, are surely likely to learn more effectively than the swimmer who passively relies on his or her coach for instruction on every aspect of swimming. And a study by Kim in 2005 says that constructive teaching is more effective in terms of academic achievement of students. But the negative point is constructive teaching is not effective in terms of students' self concept enhancement and student learning strategy changes in general, but have some effect upon motivation to learn academic tasks, causing anxiety in the academic learning process and self monitoring terms of learning for tests.
Yeah, so up till now we have discussed two of the philosophies, and if you ask me, I'll probably stand with certaintism till now because it is backed by a lot of evidence and it is quite close to be generalizable. Although in psychology we need to accept that nothing or no theory can be completely generalizable because psychology of every athlete and every person is going to be different to some extent. But given the evidence till now, I guess I'll stand with hard science. What are your thoughts?
I will go with you. I will also go with certaintism as well.
But speaking of construalism, I think another advantage could be that since it's a working alliance between the practitioner and the athlete, it could help the athlete become more self reliant and independent in the future when he or she is faced with a similar situation. So I think in that way, speaking of long term goals, it could be more beneficial.
All right. So should we move to the third philosophy, pragmatism?
So, talking about pragmatism, Keegan in 2016 actually states that pragmatism is an action oriented approach and it is based on trial and error, which means that whatever works for the client is what the practitioner goes with. It's not fixed to just one theory or one method. And the focus is actually on the end goal rather than the process that is followed to achieve that goal. And pragmatism as a concept was actually popularized by William James in his publication called Pragmatism, a New Name for Some Old Ways of Thinking. And in that, it is stated that pragmatism actually provides some practical solutions to problems in society. So it can be said that it's a practical way of thinking. And in a study conducted in 2005 by Giacobbe, Pokwadowski, and Hager, it was stated that the social, political, as well as the cultural context of an individual is taken into account when a pragmatistic approach is employed. So that is also an important advantage of the philosophy because you can't look at an athlete in isolation. These environmental factors also play an important role. And in the same study, it was also mentioned that the role of communication and dialogue between the practitioner and the athlete is also given importance in this approach, which is also an important aspect to take into consideration. And in a similar study by Dewey in 1931 and Whaley in 2001, it was found that this communication between the client and the practitioner is actually an ongoing process which takes place before the intervention as well as after the intervention, which could provide the practitioner with a lot of first hand data in terms of whether the intervention plan is working for the client or not. Another advantage of pragmatism is that it gives the practitioner enough freedom and flexibility to be able to mold his or her intervention plan and his or her practice to best suit the client's needs. Having said that, there are a few disadvantages that come along with it. The first one being mentioned in a book written by Joseph Margolis called Pragmatism's Advantage, American and European Philosophy, in which it was stated that the entire concept of pragmatism was actually developed as an alternative to Certinism. However, this was done in a very Eurocentric context. So the generalizability of the entire philosophy to other cultures can be questioned. Another thing is that in a study conducted by Thorne, Kirkham, and McDonald Elms in 1997, they said that prior knowledge on part of the practitioner, both in terms of his or her personal experiences and previous literature, is essential because there is no structure that the philosophy follows. So, in an extended study of that, in 2018 by Carl and Visser, it was stated that an increased amount of self reflection and reading is also important by the practitioner, which could lead to delays and frustration because if something is not working, it could hamper the entire process of intervention. And lastly, Morgan in 2007 states that the social and cultural background of the practitioner could also creep in and sort of lead to some level of bias because, like the hard science, which is Certinism, there is no strict guideline that the practitioner follows. So that could also be a problem while doing
Yeah.
applied practice.
Agreeing to your point, I guess from Keegan 2016 itself, the biggest disadvantage I find about this philosophy is that it's a lot of based on trial and error. So the thing is like what and if something goes wrong, like something like a burnout or exhaustion or depression in an athlete, then it doesn't know a way out of it because it just poses itself on base of trial and error and not on base of evidences and theories. So this one, I guess, is the biggest disadvantage of pragmatism.
Theory to fall back on for any explanation.
Uh, do you guys have any other views on pragmatism?
In terms of time, we should move on to the next
Yeah,
approach.
yeah, sure. So the last philosophy that is there to be talked about is fallibilism. This philosophy basically acknowledges that all the theories that are already there and are proven are flawed and will be flawed. It and will be flawed no matter what. Like there are always flaws in a theory. So it believes in being utmost cautious and doing no harm at first. So it is also known as critical realism or critical rationalism. If you imagine a practitioner of this philosophy, you can imagine being very analytical towards all the theories and evidence that are present there. He understands or he tries to understand the complex interaction between the measurable and non-measurable things in psychology and then mix them together to carefully analyze and cherry pick the things that would do no harm to an athlete. So uh, if we if we can tell that Certinism was a hard science and construalism is a soft science, fallibilism sits somewhere in between where it finds the potential pitfalls from both of them and eliminates them and chooses a final theory or a final thing to go with which would do the least harm, as this is the first thing that concerns in this theory. So there are a few pros and cons discussed about fallibilism in Keegan 2016 itself. The pro of one of the pro is that the reputation of client profession and is protected at any cost because in this the practitioner makes realistic promises to the client. He doesn't go over the board with his promises. So this ensures that fewer mistakes are made and however, the downside of it is that it places a lot of burden on the practitioner to be self-aware and ethically aware and know all the critical analysis that he's going to do. and sometimes the time involved in this is just too long, and it sometimes becomes impractical, especially for a trainee practitioner who's just come in the field, and he have to act quickly. This theory is just too longer for him. uh, there are one more pro that I found from Cohen 1988 in his article of how to be fallibilist. Uh, so he says that in contemporary epistemology, infallibilistic theory is doomed to be a skeptical conclusion. So any theory which is infallibilist or haven't been, or a theory in which the potential pitfalls haven't been analyzed would always be skeptical, and its trustworthiness can always be questioned. However, there are, as I found, there were many disadvantages that I found. One was from Kairiao 2019, if I'm not pronouncing that wrong. He said that it is unclear actually, 2019, so it is quite relatively new. So he says that it is still unclear how to formulate fallibilism, uh, and it is difficult to describe that at which level of fallibilistic knowledge is required to make it clear or non-arbitrary. That means that even though we try our best to make a theory completely fallibilistic, it is near to near to impossible to find out a theory or base a theory which has no flaws. Uh, a similar opinion comes from Hetherington 1999. I'll have to quote him. Quote, I will be happy to extend the term fallible knowledge to a more general kind of failing, and I'll name it epistemic failing. Unquote. So this basically means the same what the earlier author said, that it is hard to create a theory that is completely infallible. Uh, so after knowing all the advantages and disadvantages up till now, I still think that fallibilism is a way to go, because at least it directs its effort in right way. It directs its effort towards doing not doing misconduct of any kind. So we can assure that it is going to maintain those ethical standards that BPS talks about. So yeah, these are my views about fallibilism.
Like a thought, do you think fallibilism as an approach, if it is employed, like if fallibilism is employed as an approach by a practitioner, is it possible for the practitioner to omit some parts of a theory or some parts of an intervention plan just to, safeguard the client, because it says that one of the main parts about it is to, do no harm to the client. So is that something you think that's possible?
I guess it is possible, but from the theories that I have read till now, I can say that if a practitioner finds a theory like that, so he'll basically reject that theory and try to find a new theory, and maybe find the flaws in that. And if he doesn't found a flaw in that, then he'll proceed with it.
So we can conclude that every philosophy has their equal share of advantages and disadvantages, and they shouldn't be mixed and matched to create a hybrid philosophy, as it can create a lot of confusion for both practitioner and client. So, um, a practitioner can choose philosophy according to the needs of their client, I think, but
Yeah,
no two theories can be used upon one client.
yeah, definitely. It also kind of depends upon the uh, client's psychological needs and psychological state, or or it can also depend upon the sporting context they are in. So yeah, on these two things, I guess the philosophy also depends with the practitioner approaches.
If you start using two different philosophies on one client, say one part is a hard science and the other is a soft science, that would also confuse the client.
Mm.
And I don't think the results would, impact, like positively impact the client.
I don't
So
think that all the theories can be applicable to all the sport athletes. I mean, one theory can be applicable to someone, and the same theory could not be applicable to the other one. It's mentioned in Keegan 2016.
Yeah. So on that note, we'll just conclude this discussion. Thank you all for listening.